ए भाई लोग, कैसा है? अपन को ना ऐसे गाड़ी में बैठ के पॉडकास्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि ना अपन के पास खुद का घर है। मतलब मम्मी पापा का डर नहीं है, समझा ना? अपन अपने सोफे पे बैठ के बक बक कर सकता है। तो तुम पंटर लोग ना अपन को उधर रिच मिल। और सुन, ये गाड़ी भी अपन का ही है। हाँ, मैरी क्रिसमस। Hi, welcome to episode 20, season 3 of my podcast. My name is Daniel Fernandes. Thank you so much for joining me. By the way, did you meet my alter ego downstairs, Dabang Danny? For those of you who've sent me messages over the years asking me if stand up comedy is a good career choice and if they should make the move, let me tell you, now is the best time to do it. India is embracing the art form like never before, so go for it. More on that in a bit. Let me give you some show updates. I'm doing You Started It Live. That's the live version of this podcast tonight at 8 p.m. Jokes from the Vault in the UAE on July 24th. Jokes from the Vault UK and EU on July 25th. And HOTBOX in India on July 26th. The ticket links for all these shows are available in the video description. Okay. Let's get down to business. Just a heads up, this episode is going to be slightly different in the sense that I will not be talking about the news or taking any of your questions. There might not be as many jokes, but it's a very important episode. I want to talk about what happened in the comedy industry this past week. It's been a little rough, to be honest, and this happens every 2 or 3 years. Somebody discovers a comedian's work, they get offended, the outrage goes viral, and people get into trouble. Now, let me narrate the sequence of events as they happened, right? It started with a Twitter fight that Kenny Sebastian got into because he had an opinion about the TikTok ban. Then another comedian, Agrima Joshua, chimed in on that conversation, which led to trolls digging out a video of hers where she did some jokes about the fake news that people were propagating on Quora about the statue of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj that the government plans to build. Now, this video has been on YouTube for a year or so, and it had 2 million views before the outrage began and took over social media. The venue where this video was recorded was then vandalized, after which Agrima apologized and took down the video. While this was happening, she received multiple death and rape threats from people who felt that she disrespected Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and as of today, she's still receiving death and rape threats. Okay, here's my take on this. It's okay to be offended by a joke. It happens all the time, all over the world. It's absolutely normal. But I think what is worth examining is how we react when a joke offends us. And I think it's also important to note that Agrima's video was online for over a year and had over 2 million views. So I think it's safe to assume that many of those views came from people who revered Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, but there was no outrage then. This outrage was manufactured because another comedian had an opinion that trolls didn't like, and because Agrima jumped in on that conversation, she was the next target. And now it's just a free-for-all coordinated attack by a select group of people on the entire industry over content that's been online for years. Do these group of people speak for everyone in the country? I don't think so. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a brave warrior, a kind ruler, and a benevolent king. Okay, there's no denying that. As a thinker, he was way ahead of his time, and he was also known for treating women with a lot of respect. This is someone who is loved and revered not just by people in Maharashtra, but from people across the country. His legacy cannot be challenged or diminished by a joke of all things. Okay. And the dissonance in this case comes from how his followers conveyed their offense. Because when somebody who is larger than life inspires you, you want to be like them. You know, you want their character and their values instilled in you. Like for me personally, The Rock is someone I look up to. Okay, he inspires me. He's my role model. I love his ambition. I love how he believes in being the hardest worker in the room, his commitment to fitness, all of that. And there are so many things about him that make me want to be like him. That's what the whole follower slash fan to role model relationship is about. Somebody inspires you, you want to be like them. And I remember reading this fascinating story about Sakuji Gaikwad, who was a military general in Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's army. He had laid siege to Belwadi Fort in 1678, which was being defended by a brave warrior called Savitribai Desai. She held out for 27 days before surrendering. And then, I don't know, maybe part of his victory celebration included doing something like this, but Sakuji Gaikwad raped her. And when Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj found out about this, he had Sakuji Gaikwad's eyes gouged out and then imprisoned him for the rest of his life. The man was a general in his army who had just secured victory for the king. Yet the king felt that upholding the honor of Savitribai Desai, who was his enemy, by the way, in the battlefield, was more important than celebrating that victory. That's incredible. Now imagine, how would Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj feel if he knew that his followers were making rape threats in his name? When Agrima apologized, it was an apology born out of fear, not out of understanding. It would have been so amazing if people had said to her, hey, I saw your video that had jokes about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and I didn't quite find them funny. I felt it was disrespectful because of who he is and all these other reasons. And I want you to know that your jokes might hurt a lot of people who may not understand your comedy. She would have understood the whole situation much better and probably even taken the time to explain that the jokes were not about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, but about people who were spreading silly rumors about his statue, and that there was no intention to hurt anyone's feelings. And if that was the case, she is sorry. Is there a better way to learn about the greatness of a man than to see that greatness reflected in the people that follow him? I want to try and establish what stand-up comedy is. Okay, I hear people use words like mock or abuse very often when they describe what we do. Stand-up comedy is not about mockery. It's not about abusing. Stand-up comedy at its very core is about jokes, and jokes are not meant to be taken seriously. We don't mean what we say the way you hear it. What we are saying is not a speech. It's not supposed to be taken literally. Like, have you ever had that moment when you're pulling a friend's leg and you crack a joke and he gets a little irritated and you go, hey, I'm just kidding, man, relax. It's a joke. I didn't mean it. It's the exact same sentiment, but done in a specific setting by a professional. We're in the business of words and laughter, guys, not mockery and abuse. Don't say that. Stand-up comedy is about context, and if you take away that context, then everything sounds horrible and all of us would get beaten up. This is precisely why it is performed under a very controlled environment. There's a stage, there are lights, there's an audience, it's dark when the show is on. It's a performance where we take you on a journey with our stories and observations, and we make you laugh, and sometimes we make you think, and if we are not having a good set, the audience even cries. But it's not hate speech. It's not propaganda. It's satire. And a great man once said, I think we need more satire and humor. Humor brings happiness in our lives. Humor is the best healer. And I agree. Satire is one of the cornerstones of an evolved society. It is an essential tool that helps us rationalize what is going on around us in the context of the environment that we live in. And that includes religion and politics. Some people get very angry when we do jokes about the government. They say stuff like, "This is not satire." Of course it is. Satire questions the status quo. It is not pro government. If satire appears pro government, it is not satire. It is Republic TV. But why are you always talking about BJP? Do jokes about Congress, nah. We did do jokes about the Congress when they were in power. But you didn't get offended then because you were busy laughing at them. Every now and then I'll get a comment on my YouTube channel that says, "This comedian is paid by Congress." Do you really think the Congress can pay us? At the rate at which things are going, we'll have to set up a GoFundMe page for them. I don't understand why trolls are so insecure about jokes about the government. The party you support is in power. They are going to be in power for many years. You've won. Sit back and relax. Nothing we can say is ever going to affect voter turnout or the actual election itself. You guys are winning. Take the win. Be happy. There is no need to be so angry all the time, looking for people to get mad at and abuse and troll. There's no need for it. It's okay to love the government. It is also okay if not everybody loves the government the same way you do. And yet, both sets of people can love the country equally. How is this so difficult to understand, guys? It's not complicated. The bone of contention for the outrage this time was jokes about religion. Okay, there are a bunch of stand-up videos that are going around that are making some people angry. Then there were several tweets by comedians that were religious jokes that were tweeted years ago. And this part of what I want to say gets a little tricky because I understand why the comedians thought those tweets were funny. And at the same time, I get that why people who discovered those tweets many years later would get offended. And the reason for that is that Twitter is a terrible comedy club. I'm not a fan of posting really edgy or risque jokes on Twitter because that's a very, very tough crowd. Like, at least with the video, you can establish some context. You hear the joke in the comedian's voice and he delivers it in a way that was meant to be delivered. And even then, people will get mad. But if you're just going to leave text out there for people to discover, then they'll read it in their voice. And now it's not a joke they're reading. Anyway, these comedians have apologized, and I hope people can put this behind them, and move on. And among a lot of things that people were saying, I saw hashtag Hindu-phobic comedy industry trending. And I just want to clarify that our industry is not Hindu-phobic, okay? We are not some organized unit that gets together to target a specific religious community. If we were, we'd probably have a chance at winning a general election. Which is ordinary people from so many different walks of life. Like, dude, the scene has evolved so much from when I first started 9 years ago. Like, I don't think I know more than 25% of the comedians in the industry today. We are not united in some form of agenda towards a specific group of people. That is not true. Also, a majority of the comedians are Hindu. Okay, a majority of our audience, and there's millions of them, are Hindu. And contrary to popular belief, we don't just do jokes about Hinduism. There are jokes about other religions as well, like Islam, Christianity, and veganism. A lot of people say, why are you talking about religion in comedy? But nobody asks politicians why they're talking about religion in politics. Think about this for a second. Religion has been around for centuries before us. It will be around for centuries after we are gone. But for the 60 or 70 years that we are alive, don't you think that the people who are responsible for governance to be focused on the things that you need to have a good life instead of creating a divide between your neighbors on the basis of religion? Divide and rule is the oldest political trick in the book. In America, they do it on the basis of race. In India, they do it on the basis of religion. Everybody is busy hating people that they're never going to meet instead of asking the right questions so that they can have a decent life. Coming back to what I was saying, I think the reason why there is this perception that the comedy industry is Hinduphobic is because only stand-up videos of jokes about Hinduism are floating around on Twitter today, But the ground reality is very different. We joke about a range of subjects. Like, check out any comedian's work online and you'll see them talking about so many different things. Like, even in my case, I personally have around, say, 30 hours of content on YouTube. It's a mix of podcasts and stand-up videos, and I've spoken about a bunch of things like mental health, relationships, parents, Fair and Lovely, even Fawad Khan. And similarly, every comic has a catalog of so many different jokes, and I would really encourage you to go online and check them out. Don't judge the entire industry based on clips that were probably edited for the benefit of the message that people are trying to send out. Watch the entire video, watch other videos. There is so much more to us, which is why there are so many people across the country who have made the industry what it is today. Someone commented on social media and they said, you guys keep taking Hindus for granted because we're a very tolerant and progressive religion. And I agree. Not the taking you for granted part, but the tolerant and progressive part. I agree with that. Hinduism is a very tolerant religion, and you can see that by the fact that a lot of people in our audience are practicing Hindus and they laugh at religious material because they are very secure in their faith. And they know that their equation with their gods cannot be shaken by jokes. I understand why you're upset. Okay, I can relate to that feeling of being offended by stand-up comedy. And I'll tell you a very funny story. The first ever stand-up video that I saw was Russell Peters when I was around 18 years old, and I had no idea what stand-up comedy was. I just saw this Indian guy with an accent making fun of Indians, and that made me really angry. And I was like, if you don't like Indians so much, just go to Pakistan. And that is because I didn't understand the context. And I remember telling a friend of mine, and he was like, dude, that's just a performance. It's a show. It's just a funny way of looking at things. And I just went, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I'm really angry. So it took me a while to understand. And then I started watching more stand-up. And then I figured that it's just an art form and not hate speech. It's a way of conveying ideas and thoughts about things that you've experienced in life that you've probably never thought of in that way. And your agreement with those thoughts and ideas comes through laughter or silence. And there are a lot of people in the country right now who are only just being introduced to stand-up comedy. And if the first video that they watch is about something that they're very sensitive about, then of course they're going to be angry. It's not their fault. Look, we shouldn't confuse having a sense of humor with the ability to laugh. Okay, they're not the same thing. Comedy is so subjective, and even within stand-up, there are so many different genres. There's observational comedy, there's political comedy, insult comedy, dark comedy, physical comedy, and even as a comedian, I don't like all the genres. It's not possible for one person to like so many different things. It's the same with music, right? You only like certain genres of music. You don't like all of them. But there's no reason to shut one genre down just because you don't like it or you don't understand it. What I'm trying to say is that there's a very good chance that stand-up comedy may not be for you, and that's okay. And at the same time, there are a lot of people who love it, and that's okay too. I got a message on Instagram saying, "पता नहीं हंस कैसे लेते ये लोग ऐसे jokes पर." Yeah, and a lot of us feel the same way when we watch comedy nights with couple, but we don't vandalize his sets. Everybody finds different things funny. That is a reality we all just have to accept. And I want you to understand something, and this is a point that I keep trying to drive home. It is never our intention to hurt anyone's feelings. It is never to target a certain group of people. It is never to mock anyone. Our only intention is to entertain the people who like the art form. And I know some of you might be thinking, oh, but yeah, you all do jokes about Arnab Goswami and so and so person. That's because there is a certain rule in stand-up called punching up and punching down. Punching up is when you question people in positions of power through jokes. Punching down is when you are making fun of people who have less power than you. So the idea is to always bunch up. Now, in spite of all of this, it is okay to still come across a joke and be offended by it. What's not okay is leaking personal information of the comedian. What is not okay is threatening and harassing the comedian whose joke you didn't like. If a joke hurts your feelings and you want to file a police complaint, that's okay. But vandalizing a venue is not okay. We are better than this. And if you are somebody who is passionate about getting offended, then there are other areas where your expertise is badly needed. The economy is a mess. Fuel prices have gone whack. Unemployment is high. Assam is flooded AF and the media is not talking about it. We need your outrage there. God can take care of himself. He's more powerful than Thanos and all the Avengers combined. The only person who's more powerful than God is Mukesh Ambani. पता है, सबको पता है. And I know a lot of you watching this might be thinking, hey Dan, but we already know all this. You're preaching to the choir. Well, then it's time for the choir to sing. A lot of comics right now are going through a bit of a rough patch because of everything that's happening. You know, their inboxes are filled with so many vile messages of hate and abuse from people who don't understand what this is about, from people who might have a political agenda, from people who might want to hurt them, if not physically, at least with their words. And these things do take a toll on a person's mental health. So drop in on them just to say something nice. Remind them that you love their work. And if you can, it would be really nice to take a stand for them in public. Because when you're an artist and shit hits the fan, people who supported your work usually stay silent and then it gets really lonely, you know. So get on their Instagram, their Twitter, their Facebook, wherever these people are, wherever the artist is, wherever the people who are trolling them are. Just get out there and take a stand for the art that you enjoy. A lot of you say that our jokes got you through a hard time. Well, right now, a lot of comedians are going through a hard time and maybe you can get them through it. You know what? We need a left-wing mob, a non-violent, mature and reasonable bunch of people who are ready to stand up to this hate with rationality, intelligence, and love. And when you have some free time, please remember that the virus is still out there. Yeah, it's still out there, guys. COVID is still out there. A joke can't kill you, but COVID-19 can. So let's at least laugh a little before we die. I'm going to end this episode in a slightly different way today. You remember that after party gang I kept telling you about, the guys who hang back after my shows for 9 hours or so? Well, they've created an Instagram account called Humans for Humor. Yeah, they are their own community now. Pretty soon they're going to have elections and stuff. And they made this beautiful video for the Indian comedy scene that I want to share with you. But before I do that, just a quick reminder on the shows that I'm doing. You started it live tonight at 8 p.m. It's going to be a very special show because I'm going to be talking a little more about this in depth. I'm going to include you guys in the conversation as well. So if you want to come, please get tickets. There are a few seats left. The link is in the description. I'm doing Jokes from the Vault in the UAE on July 24th, Jokes from the Vault in the UK and EU July 25th, and HOTBOX in India on July 26th. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Please follow me on Instagram at Absolutely Danny. If you haven't done that already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can leave comments and suggestions for future episodes. I'd love to have a look at them. I'm going to sign off now and leave you with this very special message from the fans. This is Daniel Fernandes. Take care. Goodbye.
Imagine there's no trolling, no abuses too, nothing to take offense for. It'd be so sweet of you. Imagine all the people being so tolerant. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only